This is The Judges. The King is coming. This episode, it's not over till the Moses sings. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 29, and this is the covenant of Moab. This is not the same covenant made at Mount Sinai. This is when all of the children of Israel, the elders, the officers, the men of Israel, the little ones, the wives, the children, the strangers in your camp, including the hewers of wood and the drawers of water. That is when the Almighty is asking them to all enter into a covenant and to make this oath. And in verse 14 we read that this is not with you only that I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that stands here with us this day before Yahovah, and also with him that is not here with us today. So it is in the future generations that everyone is going to be required to keep this. I think this is just so important for us to understand this, because Moses gives a little bit of rehearsal here. He says, you know how that we dwelt in the land of Egypt, how we came through the nations which you passed by, and we saw their abominations, their idolatry, their wood, their stone, their gold and silver, all these idols that were among them. Unless there should be among you a man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away from Yahovah to go and serve the gods of these nations, lest there should be among you a root that bears gall and wormwood, and it come to pass that when he hears the words of this curse, that he instead of recognizing that this curse will come upon him, but instead he blesses himself in his heart, saying, I will have peace. Though I walk in the imagination of my own heart, I make up a God of my own choosing. I pretend that all these things, that's just the Old Testament. Jesus kept the Torah, so I don't have to. He nailed all these things to the cross. Now I can do all of these abominations, and it's just fine. And I'm going to teach other people to violate the Torah. And I'm fine. He said it's going to be like adding drunkenness to thirst. You're already thirsty, you just keep on drinking, you go into a drunken stupor. It says that Yahovah will not spare him, the one that blesses himself when these curses do belong to him. But then the anger of Yahovah and his jealousy is going to smoke against that man. And all of these curses that are written in this scroll shall lie upon him. Yahovah shall blot out his name from under heaven. That's when Yeshua, as the judge, says, depart from me into the lake of fire. His name blotted out, gone forever. And Yahovah shall separate him to evil out of all the tribes of Israel, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the law. Not Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, but in Deuteronomy. All this, because this is all done in one sitting, ladies and gentlemen. All that we've done in Deuteronomy for the last few weeks, it's all in one sitting. This is serious business. And it needs to be brought forth in this generation because nobody reads the Bible anymore. That's why I have to be so emphatic on this. Just this section right here in the last few weeks, I've read it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And it is so exciting. It's so beautiful because I get to see here what we're going to see the violations of in the book of the Judges and the ramifications of that. So that's why we have to set this foundation here. And then he goes on. So the generation that shall come out of your children shall rise up after you. The stranger that shall come from a far land will say, when they see the plagues that are in this land, they see the curses that have come upon you because you have not kept my commandments. They see the sicknesses that Yahovah puts on you, and that the entire land is brimstone and salt and ashes. King James says burning, but it's brimstone, salt and ashes. It's not sown, It will not bear any fruit. No grass grows therein. It's like the overthrow of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, which Jehovah overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this did come to pass. It was the most prolific and famous author in the 1860s. It was Samuel Langhorne Clemens, also known as Mark Twain, who visited Israel in 1867, just after the war between the states, the Civil War, and he published his impressions in the book Innocents Abroad. He described the land of Israel, which was a land once flowing with milk and honey, as, and I quote here, a desolate country whose soil is rich enough, but is given over wholly to weeds. A silent, mournful expanse, a desolation. We never saw a human being on the whole route through the Galilee, hardly a tree or a shrub anywhere. Even the olive tree and the cactus, those fast friends of a worthless soil, had almost deserted the country. See, now let's go on, verse 24. Not only did the Almighty say that this is what's going to happen to the land, then the prophecy of Moses concerning this. It's really the prophecy of the Almighty. Even all nations shall say, wherefore has Jehovah done thus to the land? Wherefore, remember the word wherefore. Why for the wherefore? What's the therefore? Wherefore means why. Why? Wherefore, why has Jehovah done this to this land? What means the heat of this great anger that's displayed? Then men shall say, because they've forsaken the covenant of Jehovah, the God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. For they went out and served other gods. They worshiped them, gods who they did not know and whom he had not given to them. And the anger of Jehovah was kindled against this land to bring upon it all the curses that are written right here in this book. Devarim, Deuteronomy. And Jehovah rooted them out of the land in anger and in his wrath and in his great indignation. And he cast them away into another land as it is this day. And verse 29, beautiful verse here in context. The secret things belong to Jehovah our Elohim, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. See, it's no longer a secret. He's not just showing his acts, he's showing his ways, and he is prophesying of his ways. He is saying, you are going to do this. And when this happens, then the stranger is going to come and he is going to report these things. It was Samuel Langhorne Clemens who was chosen by the Almighty to do this. Mark Twain was born the night Halley's Comet came through. At the end of his life, Halley's Comet was due that night, and as Halley's Comet came through, Mark Twain said, I came on a comet, and I will go on the comet. And he left that night. His life was gone. But he was chosen by the Almighty to be the most famous, most prolific author of his time to fulfill the prophecy that came upon that nation of Israel. And because it was given to us and our children, now we can know these things. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1, calling Israel back. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon you, the blessings and the curse, which I set before you, then you shall call them to mind among the nations, whither Jehovah has driven you, and you will remember these things. You will remember that I gave you the key to prosperity, and then you turned away from me and the curses came upon you. And then you shall return to Jehovah, and you shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day, you and your children, and you'll return with all your heart and with all your soul. That then Jehovah will turn your captivity. He'll have compassion on you and return and gather you from all the nations, whether Jehovah has scattered you. If any of you are driven out to the uttermost part of heaven, from there Jehovah will gather you, and he'll fetch you in. And he will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will do you good, and he will multiply you above your fathers. Yehovah, your Elohim, will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed to love him with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live again. And Yehovah will put all these curses upon your enemies and them that hate you and persecuted you. And you shall return and obey the voice of Yehovah and do all his commandments, which I command you this very day. In verse 9, Yehovah will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed to love him with all your heart, your soul. And, Yehovah will make you plenteous in every work of your hand, the fruit of your body, and the fruit of your flocks, and in the fruit of your land for good. This is the promise that he makes. And then, chapter 31, we go to verse 1. Moses went and spoke these words to all of Israel, and he said, I'm 120 years old this very day. I can no more go out and come in. Also, Yehovah said to me, you shall not go over this Yarden, because of his violation, of his destroying the shadow picture of the Messiah as the rock that was to be smitten once, and after that declared. Moses struck it a second time. Both he and Aaron were forbidden to go into the promised land. And ladies and gentlemen, the prophetic shadow picture for this generation, for the last generation, is the confirmation of the covenant. It is the Ark of the Covenant, where it was hidden by Jeremiah during the siege of Nebuzaradan. What transpired after it was put in the stone sarcophagus that was prepared by Solomon generations earlier, and what happened at the crucifixion when the earthquake, the rocks rent, and the graves were open, and the rocks rent, and the stones at the foot of the cross was split open, and out of the side of the Messiah poured blood and water that went down that earthquake crack onto the mercy seat, the Ark of the Covenant. This is what Rabbi Shlomo Gordon, the chief rabbi of Israel, said: the Ark of the Covenant is not lost. It was deliberately hidden in Mount Moriah. I've been in the chamber. I have seen the Ark. And then Rabbi Kaduri, 108 years old at the time of his death, who prophesied that the Messiah, who had revealed himself to him, the Messiah, who he said his name is Yehoshua, revealed to thousands of his followers a year after his death. He said that the Messiah would come after. The Messiah would be revealed after the death of Sharon. And at that time, Sharon was in the prime of his health. Ladies and gentlemen, the earth is going to shake. The earth is going to shake again. And this prophetic shadow picture in the earth, the Ark of the Covenant, where it is, ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing else that you ever do, you must get the great secret of Solomon's temple. You can't go without it. The great secret of Solomon's temple, the most important 2.5 hours of my life. I will never say anything as important as that, because that is the key to the confirmation of the covenant that starts the last Shavua, the last 7 years. Don't worry about what people are calling blood moons. These are indeed signs from heaven. They are lunar eclipses, but they're not blood moons. The blood moon spoken of in the scripture is an atmospheric event as a result of war. Every time it's used, do not be misled by that concept, okay? They are signs in the heavens, but what we're waiting for is the confirmation of the covenant. And it could happen as soon as this fall, at the end of one hellacious war. But time will tell. We watch and we wait. All times are in the hands of the Almighty. And so, in verse 3, Yahovah would not allow Moses to go into the promised land because he destroyed the prophetic shadow picture. And we have people that are doing it all the time. They're trying to tell you that Yeshua is crucified over in the Mount of Olives. The same teacher who is now dead, which is Dr. Ernst Martin, he said the temple wasn't where the temple is, but that was just a place for that the Roman army built. And the temple was never up there, and the temple was someplace else that there's no evidence of. I mean, it's ludicrous. He's the one that said the temple isn't where it is, and that the crucifixion happened on the side of the Mount of Olives. The man was over-literalized, simple figures of speech in the Hebrew text of Matthew and turned it into a complete circus. And now you got people saying the crucifixion happened on the Mount of Olives and Jesus was the red cow, a female cow, instead of the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, and destroying the prophetic shadow pictures of the Ark of the Covenant. Do not follow those who destroy the prophetic shadow pictures. They don't know what they're talking about. They are self-appointed, anointed prophets of their own presuppositions, following somebody that came out of worldwide, which had some good points, but that was not a good point. Verse 3, Yahovah will go over before you and destroy these nations from before you, and you shall go, and Yehoshua, he shall go over before you, as Yahovah has said. In verse 8, Yahovah, he it is that does go before you. And it's not literally him, it is he will send his messenger, his angel. We're going to get into this when we get into the book of Joshua, to see the event when the angel goes in before the children of Israel because of the infraction at Mount Sinai, where the children of Israel, while Moses was up in the mountain getting the revelation concerning the building of the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, all, and because when he came down, Moses came down, they had built the golden calf, and the Almighty said, stand back, I'm going to kill them all. That is when the Almighty made the resolution that I am not going to go in the land with you. You people are so sick and so twisted. I'm going to send my angel in, but I'm not going to go in with you. He is going to let his messenger go in before, and this was one bad messenger. I mean, you don't mess with this messenger. He can kill 175,000 people with one swipe of the sword. This is not an angel or messenger to be trifled with. But we're going to get into that when we step into Joshua's visitation with them. And it says, Yahovah, he is going to go before you. He's going to be with you. He's not going to fail you. He's not going to forsake you. And so don't be afraid. And so then Moses wrote this Torah. He wrote this Torah, the book of Deuteronomy. He wrote this down, delivered it to the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the Ark of the Covenant. And then finally, in verse 30, Moses spoke in the ears of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. And so now we have the song of Moses. And this is what is going to close things down, the song of Moses. Chapter 32, verse 1. Give ear, O you heavens, and I will speak. And hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop down as the rain, and my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb. I hope that forever I have ruined Led Zeppelin's song, and you will always remember the 32nd chapter Deuteronomy and the Song of Moses. No, I don't know the tune, and I'm sure that it doesn't have the proper cadence without it being in Hebrew, but this is the song of Moses that is to be repeated to all the children of Israel for generations. Remember the days of old. We go to verse 7. You know, oh my, this is so absolutely beautiful. Let's read through some of this. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak. And hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew. As the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass, because I will publish the name of Yahovah. Ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are just judgment. A God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. Verse 5. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite Yahovah, you foolish and unwise people? Is not he your father that bought you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, he'll show you. Your elders, they'll tell you. They'll tell you about when the Most High divided the nations, their inheritance. When he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel, and they weren't going to be born for hundreds of years. But yet, when he divided the nations at the Tower of Babel, he did it. He interrupted the New World Order, the one world government, because he was choosing a people who would be his representatives, who would be his prophets to go to the nations and reconcile the world to himself. Verse 9. For Yahovah's portion is his people. They are his prophets. They are his priests. Yaakov is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land, in the waste, in the howling desert. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the pupil of his eye. As an eagle stirs up her nest, flutters over her young, spreads abroad her wings, takes them, and bears them up on her wings, so Yahovah alone did lead him. And there was no strange God with him. He made him to ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of his field. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock. That's olive oil. It's not talking about crude. Butter from flocks, milk from sheep, the fat of lambs, rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats, the fat of the kidneys of wheats, the kernels of wheat. And you did drink the pure blood of the grapes, but Yeshurun, Israel waxed fat and kicked. After everything was given to them, the blessings came, they are waxed fat. This is prophetic. They kicked. Oh, you've waxen so fat, you've grown so thick, you're covered with fatness. And when you got fat, you forsook God which made you. You lightly esteemed the rock of your salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. And this is where we are in America today, ladies and gentlemen. We've waxed fat. We've got it made in the shade. Everything is so great, and it's going to come down just like that. Because just like they sacrificed to devils, verse 17, not to God. To gods whom they knew not. To new gods that came up newly, whom your fathers had no respect for. The rock that begat you, you are unmindful. You've forgotten God that formed you, and when Yahovah saw it, he abhorred because of the provoking of his sons and daughters, and he said, I'm going to hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a froward generation, children in whom there is absolutely no faith. They have moved me jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. I will move them to jealousy with those who are not even a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. And this is what the Almighty is doing for Israel today and for the Jews today, is that a people that are not even a nation, a foolish nation, a nation of fools that have forsaken the Almighty, he's going to provoke them to jealousy. For a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn to the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with their increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountain. I will heap mischief upon them. I will spend my arrows upon them. They will be burning with hunger, and devoured with burning heat, and with bitter destruction. I will also send beasts upon them to test them, and serpents, poisonous serpents, from the dust of the earth. The sword without, terror within, shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling with the man of gray hairs. I said I would scatter them in the corners. I would make the remembrance of them cease from among them, were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, unless they should say, our hand is high, and Yahovah has not done this. I'm not going to let the nation say that. They're a nation devoid of counsel. Neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they'd understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How could one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Except their rock had sold them out. And Yahovah shut them up. For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their wine is as the wine of Sodom, the fields of Gomorrah, the grapes are grapes of gall. The clusters are bitter. The wine that they drink is the poison of dragons and cruel venom of asp. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me, the Almighty says, belongs vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them are making haste. For Yahovah shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants. When he sees that their power is gone and there is none shut up or left, then he's going to say, where are their gods? Where's their rock that they invented? Not the real Messiah, but the one they invented and whom they trusted. You know, the sweet baby, 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus. The Jesus just wants you to be happy. The Jesus who's your real estate agent who just wants you to live in the biggest house. Yeah. Where's their rock they invented in which they trusted? Which ate of the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of the drink offerings. Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. Let's see how your invented gods take care of you. See now that I, even I, am he. There's no God with me. I kill, I make alive. I wound, and I heal. There's nobody that can deliver out of my hand. For I will lift up my hand to heaven, and I will say, I live forever. If I whip my glittering sword and my hand takes hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies, and I will reward those that hate me. And I will make my arrows drunk with blood. My sword will devour flesh with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful to his land and to his people. And we see that Moses came and spoke all the words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Yehoshua, the son of Nun. They were the ones that spoke this and taught it to all of Israel. And then in verse 48, and Yahovah spoke to Moses that same day, saying, get up to this mountain, Abarim, Abarim, Abarim. Hebrews is what it is. This mountain of Hebrews, the crossing over. to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab that's over against Jericho. Go ahead, behold the land of Canaan, which I give the children of Israel for possession. And you are going to die in the mount where you go up. You're going to be gathered to your people, as Aaron, your brother, died in the Mount Hor and was gathered to his people. Because, and this is why you're going to die, because you trespassed me against me. Among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because you did not sanctify me in the midst of the children of Israel, I said, declare the rock, and you smote it, and you're not going in, and because of that, today you are going to die. You go up, but yet I'm going to allow you to see the land, but you will not go into the land which I give to the children of Israel. We're going to take a break before we go to verse 33 and closing out the end of Moses' life here. And in this, we give you the opportunity to stand with this ministry. This is the voice crying out in the wilderness in this generation. We are not backing down. We're not backing up. We are not kowtowing to any religious system. If these networks that we're on want to throw me off because I'm a little too harsh, then so be it. May the judgment of the Almighty go upon anyone who would stand in the way of the gospel of the kingdom getting out to the world. I'm not going to back down, and I'm not going to tone it down, because the Almighty has commissioned this message to go out. Each message, every one that I'm doing as if this is the last one that I get to do in this life. If I get to do another one, because I have so much that I want to share, but the Almighty knows what the time clock is and what He is going to do. But this is your opportunity to stand with us, because if you don't stand with us, we can end up not there for you just because the provision from you isn't there. Freely we have given. Freely you have received. Now, this is your moment to freely give. This is the time of the first fruit offering from the 7 Sabbaths of the counting of the Omer through Shavuot. This is when you give of the first fruits before your prosperity this year. This is your only guarantee as you give that you will be provided for by the Almighty. I'll see you in just a moment back here for the rest of the message today. Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 1. On the day that Moses is told to go up from the mountain, that he's going to die, this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And after that blessing, then it tells us in chapter 34, verse 1, that Moses then went up from the plains of Moab to the mountain Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho, and Yehovah showed him all the land of Gilead to Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and all the land of Yehudah to the utmost sea, and to the south, in the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, to Zoar. And Yehovah said to him, this is the land that I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give this to your seed. I have caused you, Moses, to see it with your eyes, but you are not going over there. So Moses, the servant of Yehovah, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yehovah, and he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab over against Beit Peor, the house of Peor, which is a pagan god. And no man knows of his sepulcher to this day. And verse 7 tells us that Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, his natural force was not abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning were ended, and Yehoshua, the son of Nun, full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses has laid his hands on him, and the children of Israel hearkened, Shema. They heard and obeyed him as they and did as Yehovah had commanded Moses. So they, just as Moses said, you obey him like you obey me, and they did that. And then verse 10 is, I'm sorry to tell you that verse 10 is no longer true. I hate to say that, there's something in the Bible that is not accurate, but here's something that's no longer true. Verse 10 says, and there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom Yehovah knew face to face. That's no longer true. Why? Because Yeshua is the prophet who knows Yehovah face to face. A greater than Moses came with Yeshua. Why is this verse no longer true? Well, it's really true, but see, you have to understand the context of time. At the time this was written, and until the time of the prophet, it was true. But after the passage of time, then we can no longer say since, not a prophet since, because since this was written, Yeshua has now come, and he is the prophet of whom Moses prophesied, the one that we must shema, we must hear and obey. Just as Yehoshua was the leader of Israel that we must obey, the Almighty told Moses to tell us to obey Yehoshua, just as we obeyed Moses, but yet that Yehoshua was not the prophet. The Yehoshua that was to come in the future, which shortened, as the angel said, to call his name Yeshua, as Yehoshua was shortened, but it still means Yehovah is our salvation. That's what it means. It doesn't matter whether it's Yehoshua, Yeshua, it still means Yehovah is our salvation. And it says, in all the signs and the wonders which Yehovah sent him to do in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh, and to his servants, and to all his land, in all that mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moses showed in the sight of all Israel. And when it comes to that, ladies and gentlemen, even Yeshua did not do the things that Moses did, as far as by the hand of the Almighty instructed parting the Red Sea. Those things that even today are landmarks on planet Earth. As all of you know out there, that they found Pharaoh's chariots and army, hundreds of them, strewn for over 1.5 miles on the bottom of the Gulf of Aqaba, the ancient Yam Suf, now called the Gulf of Aqaba, also called the Reed Sea. and the sea of seaweeds, and it is there that Pharaoh's army has been found. Right there at Nebo, Egypt, going over to Baal Zephon. That's where the underwater land bridge is, and that is where the children of Israel crossed. That's been found. Yeshua didn't do anything like that that would make a permanent marker on the land. And there, of course, Solomon recognized it, and he put two pillars, one on each side, one over at Baal Zephon, the other one over at Nebo, Egypt, to mark the crossing site for the children of Israel. The things that Moses did still have a marker on the land. As you get into our episode on Israel's ancient title deed to the land, we see that we take you down to Har Karkum, which is one of the 42 camping sites of the children of Israel during their 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. Har Karkum is now Mount Sinai. I know Emmanuel Anati has been trying to tout that for a long time. Doesn't fit, not one bit, not one way does it fit, except it perfectly fits as one of the 42 camping sites. 40,000 petroglyphs, rock carvings of the very same images that we see in the land of Midian at Jebel al-Lawz, at the mountain of Moses. You know, it's all there. It's very obvious. And so in one way, there's never arisen a prophet who's done the vast amount of miracles that are still resident within the land that can be witnessed even to this day. No one's done it like Moses, but the prophet, Yeshua, no one beats that prophet. Hearing directly from heaven, he is the one that not only that we must shema, but he is the one who will be our judge in the very end. And so now we turn the page and we are in the book of Joshua, and we just continue on. Because after the death of Moses, the servant of Yehovah, it came to pass that Yehovah spoke unto Yehoshua, the son of Nun, who was Moses' minister, his help, his second in command, and he said, verse 2, Moses, my servant, is dead. Very harsh words here. Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore, rise up, go over Jordan, you and all this people, and go into the land that I give them. Even all the children of Israel, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given you, as I said unto Moses. And we see that very thing at Har Karkum, as I mentioned, the imprint of chiseled feet, sandaled feet, chiseled into the ground there. You go down into the land of Midian, the real Mount Sinai, and there are hundreds and thousands of the imprint of chiseled, sandaled feet. Why? This is the ancient title deed to the land. I detail this in the Sinai Connection, Israel's ancient title deed to the land. 4.5 hours, which I take you down to Mount Sinai. The American oil field engineers, Jim Caldwell, his wife Penny, and their children, 9 years down in the Midian oil fields, who are able to get artifacts, video, and high-resolution footage and photographs out of the land of Midian, the real Mount Sinai, where we camped for over a year. Just millions of pieces of pottery. The graveyard to Israel, the rock at Rephidim, it's all there. The altar to the golden calf is still there. It's still standing, partially toppled over from an earthquake, but all this is there. And we take you there by video to show you these things. And you know, this is what Josias, who is the head of the Department of Antiquities in Israel, also known as the Rockefeller Museum, which gives you a clue where these people are coming from. He refused to look at any of the evidence of Mount Sinai in Arabia. Why? He said, Mount Sinai is a literary invention. No one will ever find it. He had already presupposed, he had already determined that all this about Mount Sinai and the Almighty shouting out its commandments is a literary invention. It's a fairy tale. Well, I don't believe in Josiah. I don't believe that Josiah really ever lived. I think he's a figment of his own overinflated imagination. I don't think that he's anyone that should ever be listened to. I think the guy's a complete moron. But yet, as head of the Department of Antiquities, he refused to even look at the evidence. The thousands I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen tens of thousands of artifacts that have been smuggled out of Arabia and have gotten out of the country. I have some of them in my possession. I don't own them. They're on loan, hopefully, my entire lifetime from the Caldwells, which I thank them so much for their work, what they have done, what they have accomplished, the years of work, the danger that they put themselves, their children, and others through to get these things into our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, men and women have nearly lost their lives several times to get these into our hands. We've got it on video, and you know what? Some people won't even pay, what is it, $1,000 for the video? I don't think it's $1,000. I think it's like $35, something like that. 4.5-hour videos, but they don't care enough about the truth to actually get these things. Oh, they'll watch them free on the internet, maybe, but see, ladies and gentlemen, these are the greatest treasures in the world. And I believe that they're the great treasures because this is how I was led by the Spirit to find these, to where these people came to me, where the connection happened between Ron Wyatt and Henry Groover, myself, and Jim and Penny Caldwell, and those involved in the filming of these things over there. It's just, to me, they are the most precious treasures on the earth. And here we see that when we are given the commission to go into the land here, and that every place the sole of our foot treads, that's why we see the imprint of the chiseled feet wherever we go. And this is what Moses was told: every place the sole of your foot treads, that is yours, including the vast oil fields of Midian, the lightest, sweetest crude oil on planet Earth. You can take it right out of the ground and you can put it right in the vehicle. It is that pure. It is that light and sweet a crude. This is what I'm told by James Caldwell. Nothing like it anyplace else on the earth. And guess who it belongs to? Guess whose imprint of chiseled, sandaled feet are there in the land of Midian? That's right, Israel. And by bulldozers and many excavating big equipment, the Arabian government is trying to get rid of the ancient landmarkers, but it's not going to work. And so now we continue on. From the wilderness of this Lebanon, verse 4, into the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, under the great sea, going down toward the going down of the sun, that is going to be your coast. So our land goes all the way to the Euphrates River. And then in verse 7, it tells us, only be thou strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moses, my servant, commanded you. This is the word of Yahovah to Joshua, the son of Nun. He said, don't turn to the right hand or the left, so that you can prosper wherever you go. And this book of the Torah shall not depart from your mouth, but you'll meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that's written therein. For then shall you make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and be of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be dismayed, for Yahovah your Elohim is with you wherever you go. Then Yehoshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the hosts and command the people to prepare victuals, to victuals, as Buddy Ebsen, who will always be the Sean Connery of Jed Clampetts, said, prepare victuals, for within 3 days you're going to pass over Jordan to possess the land. And this is what it goes into. And verse 12 is talking about the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh. He said, remember the word which Moses commanded you, saying, Yahovah, your God, has given you rest and has given you this land, the land over on the other side of Jordan. Your wives, your little one, your cattlemen, the cattle, which means flock, shall remain in the land which Moses gave you on the east side of the Jordan, but you are going to pass over in front of your brethren armed, all your mighty men of valor, and you are going to help them. And until Yahweh has given your brethren rest, and he has commanded you, and they also possess the land which Yahweh gives them. Then you will return into the land of your possession and enjoy it. And then they answered and said, all that you command, we will do. Where you send, we will go. According as we listen to Moses, we will listen to you. Now, who are these? These are the offspring of Reuben. Reuben are not there. Who's the offspring of Reuben? They are, Hanok is of the offspring of Reuben. And his children and the families became known as the Hanokites, the dedicated ones. These were the ones who said, okay, we've conquered this land, we're going to take it. And Moses says, but you are not going to rest here. You can let your wives and your children stay here, but you are going to go over as men of war, and you're going to help your brethren take the land. And if you don't go, be sure your sin will find you out. And these Hanokite warriors did not rest upon what everyone else did for them. They took the sword in their hand and said, we're going to follow you like we followed Moses. And then they said, whoever rebels against your commandment, we're going to put him to death. If any of these Hanokites, if any of these Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, if anyone fail to go over as warriors, we're going to kill them. That is a Hanokite warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we stand right now. Past generations have given their lives to get the word of our God into our hands in languages that we can understand. They had their own battles that they had to fight. And I'm not going to get on Wycliffe and on those who gave their lives to get the gospel into our language. I'm not going to get on them. It's our turn to stand on their shoulders and take the gospel of the kingdom to the world. That's our job. That is our burden, because we are Hanokite warriors who are going to charge ahead, who are going to forge ahead to do this. And so, Joshua 2:1, and so Yehoshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, go into the land to Jericho. And when they went, they came into a harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. So they were at Shittim. Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim. Now, where is Shittim? Shittim is one of the easiest places to get, ladies and gentlemen. To get to Shittim, all you have to do is go up Shittim Creek. And the beauty of it, after you get up Shittim Creek, you don't even need a paddle. And you will find Shittim Creek. And you will find Shittim. There, out of Shittim, which is acacia woods, acacia woods, Shittim, 2 men were sent to Jericho, and they went and came into a harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. King James says, it says lie there, shachab, which is to be laid, or to lie there. And as of recent, there have been Bible scholars who have attempted to turn this into an innkeeper's house. But ladies and gentlemen, zana, in Hebrew is the word used here. It's used over 80 times in the scripture, and every time it's a harlot's house, a whore's house. That's where they went. Now, you could be a stranger coming in and look like you're doing business in the house of a harlot, of a whore in Jericho. This would be common thing. And so where did they go? They went into the harlot's house, and there they spoke to Rahab, and she prophesies. She speaks a word to them where she knows from heaven that the Almighty has delivered that city into their hands, and she protects them and makes it possible for them to take back the message so that The city of Jericho can be taken, and because of her revelation and what she does, she is able to save her entire household. We're going to be back next week as we dig into the book of Yehoshua and our way to the Judges. I would like to pray. Yehovah, bless you and keep you. Yehovah, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yehovah, lift up his face upon you and his countenance upon you and give you peace, his peace. And may he do so in the name of Yeshua, Yehoshua, the Prince of Peace. Yehovah, bless you.